The Alvis TA21 was introduced in 1950 at a moment when the British motor industry was emerging from wartime disruption rather than entering a period of technological optimism. Unlike manufacturers that used the post-war reset to pursue radical redesigns, Alvis chose continuity. The TA21 was conceived not as a new beginning, but as a carefully controlled resumption of pre-war engineering values adapted to altered economic and infrastructural realities. At its foundation, the TA21 is built around a steel ladder frame chassis, directly evolved from pre-war Alvis practice. The frame consists of substantial longitudinal rails connected by cross members, designed to prioritize durability, ease of manufacture, and predictable behavior over weight efficiency. In an era of material scarcity and export pressure, this conservative choice reduced production risk and simplified maintenance. Body construction reflects the transitional nature of the period. Factory-built four-door saloon bodies formed the core of production, offering predictable assembly quality and structural consistency. For customers seeking exclusivity, coach-built two-door bodies, most notably by Tickford, were available. These bodies typically employed aluminum panels over ash framing, continuing traditional British coach-building methods shaped by limited steel availability and the availability of skilled woodworkers. The consequence of this dual approach is variability. Factory saloons tend to exhibit more consistent panel alignment and body integration, while coach-built cars reflect individual craftsmanship. Structural rigidity, noise behavior, and even ride quality can differ noticeably between examples with identical chassis specification. A defining characteristic of the TA21 chassis is its deliberate avoidance of extremes. Alvis did not pursue minimal weight, nor did it chase absolute rigidity. Instead, the structure was engineered to tolerate variation in road quality, body construction, and passenger load, without transmitting harshness into the cabin. The ladder frame exhibits controlled compliance rather than stiffness. Under load, the chassis flexes gradually, avoiding abrupt torsional reactions. This behavior contributes directly to the TA21's calm, predictable ride on uneven surfaces, particularly on secondary roads that dominate post-war driving conditions. Suspension design reflects refined pre-war thinking rather than post-war experimentation. Independent front suspension with coil springs and wishbones is combined with a rear solid axle supported by leaf springs. This layout prioritizes stability, mechanical simplicity, and serviceability over handling sharpness or modern geometry optimization. Body mounting strategy reinforces the touring orientation. Rubber isolation points reduce vibration transmission from the chassis into the body structure. Rather than tying the body rigidly to the frame, Alvis allowed a degree of separation, improving refinement at the expense of absolute structural unity. Post-war road reality strongly influenced chassis tuning. Roads often transitioned abruptly between patched tarmac, gravel, and worn concrete. The TA21 does not attempt to isolate these changes completely. Instead, it prevents them from escalating into instability by allowing controlled movement rather than resisting it. From a structural perspective, the TA21 represents continuity rather than reinvention. It carries forward pre-war Alvis engineering logic, refined cautiously to meet post-war expectations without introducing unnecessary complexity or risk. Powering the Alvis TA21 is a 3.0-liter inline-six engine, derived from pre-war Alvis designs but updated for post-war production and fuel realities. The engine was not conceived to deliver impressive numerical output. Its design priorities were smoothness, reliability, and sustained usability under everyday conditions. The engine employs an iron block with an aluminum cylinder head, operating overhead valves via pushrods. Compression ratios are modest, reflecting fuel quality limitations and the desire to minimize thermal and mechanical stress. Rather than extracting maximum power, Alvis engineers focused on consistency and longevity. Torque delivery is accessible at low engine speeds. The TA21 does not require high revs to make progress. Once underway, The car accelerates smoothly and predictably, favoring steady momentum over urgency. Fuel delivery is handled by twin carburetors calibrated for progressive response. Throttle inputs result in linear increases in speed rather than sudden surges, reinforcing a sense of mechanical control rather than excitement. The TA21 engine reflects Alvis's aircraft-influenced engineering philosophy. Rather than chasing output figures, engineers prioritized predictable combustion, conservative stress levels, and stable thermal behavior across long operating periods. Cooling capacity is adequate for touring use, but not excessive. In sustained low-speed operation, heavy traffic, or high ambient temperatures, careful driving is required to maintain temperature stability. This reinforces the TA21's expectation of mechanical sympathy rather than passive operation. The gearbox is a 4-speed manual transmission notable for its synchromesh on all forward gears, including first. This feature significantly improves usability compared to many pre-war designs, reducing driver workload in urban conditions and frequent stop-start driving. The fully synchronized gearbox fundamentally changes the TA21's drivability. Smooth downshifts at low speed reduce clutch wear and driveline shock, aligning the car with post-war expectations of ease rather than pre-war notions of mechanical engagement. Power is transmitted to the rear wheels through a conventional drive shaft and differential. Final drive ratios favor relaxed cruising rather than brisk acceleration, keeping engine speeds low at road velocity and reducing noise and wear. Braking is provided by hydraulically actuated drum brakes on all 4 wheels. Brake performance emphasizes predictability and consistency rather than outright stopping power. Repeated heavy braking leads to fade, requiring anticipation and restraint. Compared with contemporaries such as Jaguar or Rover, the TA21 trades outright performance for drivability. It is slower, but easier to manage, demanding less constant correction and fewer abrupt inputs from the driver. Mechanical noise is present but controlled. Valve train sounds, drivetrain whine, and exhaust note are muted rather than eliminated, maintaining mechanical awareness without intruding on comfort. The interior of the Alvis TA21 reflects a distinctly restrained British interpretation of comfort. It does not aim to impress through luxury or stylistic drama. Instead, it emphasizes usability, durability, and long-term familiarity. Seating is upright and conservatively padded. Cushioning is firm enough to provide support during long journeys without encouraging relaxation that might dull driver awareness. Lateral support is minimal, reflecting the TA21's non-sporting intent and the expectation of measured driving inputs rather than aggressive cornering. The driving position prioritizes visibility and leverage. The steering wheel is relatively large in diameter, reducing effort at low speeds. Pedal placement follows traditional conventions rather than ergonomic optimization, requiring familiarity rather than intuition. Instrumentation is sparse and functional. Gauges typically include speedometer, oil pressure, coolant temperature, and fuel level. Readability is clear, but information density is low. Alvis engineers assumed that a properly operating car should not require constant monitoring. Excess instrumentation was considered unnecessary. Switchgear is tactile and deliberately oversized. Controls are designed to be operated without visual confirmation, reinforcing ease of use over precision. Familiarity develops quickly, reducing cognitive load during long drives. Interior materials favor durability over refinement. Leather quality varies by specification, but wear resistance is prioritized over softness. Trim is practical rather than decorative, and sound insulation is modest by modern standards. Ergonomically, the TA21 reflects a transitional mindset. Control placement and seating geometry rely on convention and experience rather than formal ergonomic study. The result is an interior that feels immediately understandable to period drivers, even if it lacks modern refinement. Externally, the TA21 presents a conservative and formal appearance. The factory saloon body emphasizes upright proportions, restrained lines, and minimal ornamentation. Chrome trim is used sparingly and purposefully, avoiding visual excess. Coach-built variants introduce more flowing rooflines and lighter visual mass, but even these avoid flamboyance. Regardless of body style, the TA21 communicates competence and restraint rather than performance or status. The exterior design does not attempt to express speed. Instead, it emphasizes balance and stability, reinforcing the car's role as a dependable touring machine rather than an aspirational object. Original Alvis TA21 paint finishes were typically single-stage enamels, applied for depth and durability rather than surface perfection. Over time, these finishes are prone to fading, oxidation, and micro-cracking, particularly when exposed to prolonged sunlight or moisture. Inspection of a TA21 should always begin with structural assessment rather than cosmetic condition. Rust is a primary concern, particularly in chassis rails, suspension mounting points, and body-to-frame interfaces. Post-war corrosion protection was limited, and many cars have experienced long periods of storage. For coach-built examples, the condition of the ash frame is critical. Wood rot, shrinkage, or poorly executed repairs can distort body alignment permanently. Door fit, panel alignment, and roof integrity often reflect underlying wood condition rather than surface metalwork. Mechanical inspection should focus on cooling system integrity, oil pressure stability, and gearbox condition. The fully synchronized gearbox improves usability but introduces wear points, particularly in first gear synchromesh if abused. Electrical systems are simple but frequently modified. Original wiring insulation often degrades over time, necessitating careful evaluation to ensure safety without compromising originality. A correct inspection workflow prioritizes structure and mechanical integrity over appearance. A visually attractive TA21 may conceal deferred maintenance or structural compromise that fundamentally alters driving behavior. Over-restoration is a common issue. Modern paint systems, excessive sound insulation, and cosmetic refinements can obscure the car's original character and alter its mechanical feedback. Driving the Alvis TA21 today requires a recalibration of expectations. Performance is not defined by acceleration or speed, but by consistency and composure. Once underway, the car settles into a steady rhythm rather than encouraging urgency. Steering is unassisted and moderately heavy at low speeds. As speed increases, effort reduces and feedback becomes more consistent. Precision is adequate, but the emphasis is on stability rather than response. Ride quality is compliant and controlled. The TA21 absorbs uneven surfaces effectively, maintaining composure over long distances. Suspension behavior favors gradual movement over sharp reaction, reducing fatigue on poor roads. Braking performance reflects period limitations. Drum brakes provide predictable deceleration when used sympathetically, but repeated heavy use leads to fade. Effective driving relies on anticipation rather than reaction. At cruising speed, the TA21 feels settled and mechanically calm. Engine noise is subdued and vibration levels are low. The car encourages steady progress rather than dynamic driving. In everyday touring use, the TA21 excels through predictability. It does not demand constant correction or attention. Instead, it rewards smooth inputs and measured pacing. Long-distance driving reveals the car's intended role. Fatigue is minimized not through isolation, but through consistency. Controls respond the same way hour after hour, allowing the driver to relax into the car's rhythm. Delivery experience and period context assumed mechanical familiarity. Owners were expected to understand basic operation without extensive instruction. The TA21 did not explain itself. It expected adaptation. Ownership reality reinforces the TA21's engineering philosophy. It is a car that teaches restraint, mechanical sympathy, and patience rather than rewarding aggression. The Alvis TA21 is neither a sports car nor a luxury statement. It is a technically conservative touring machine, designed to function reliably in a recovering post-war world. Its significance lies in balance. Adequate performance, durable engineering, and understated refinement, delivered without excess or pretense.